What if Formula 1 used a different point system? So the point system in Formula 1 is fairly arbitrary, but it definitely has some thought behind it. As you can see, the old system used to go from P1 to P6, ranging from 10 to 1 point. Now it goes from P1 having 25 points down to P10 having just the 1 point. Now the reason only the top 10 score points is because P10 is 1 point and you still get a point for the fastest lap. So this will just encourage the bottom half of the grid to just sort of do quali laps at the end of the race to try get that 1 point, as it is worth the same amount. Now there could be a case for increasing the points and still giving 1 point to the fastest lap, but we'll get into that later in the video. Now, as you can see, from 1991 to 2002, this was the system shown earlier, from 10 points down to 1 from 1st to 6th, and it's gradually increased to more positions. Since 2019 we've had the point system we have currently, for all the top 10 drivers, from 25 points down to 1. So let's have a look at the current point system in a little bit more detail. So a DNF is obviously you get 0 points. Now even if 10 people before you DNF'd, so you're running in the points and then you had a DNF, you would get 0 points, you wouldn't get that 1 point, as you do need to finish the race to get a point. So P20 up to P11 you do not get any points, and if you get the fastest lap you do not get a point, although you can take it off another driver. So P10 you get a 1 point, and then from P9 upwards to P4 it linearly increases by 2, so it goes from 2 to 4 to 6 to 8 to 10 to 12. So yeah, not much of a difference, just 2 points in that. And then as soon as you get onto the podium, jumps up to 3 more again, and then from P2 to P1 is the biggest increase, where there's a 7 point swing. If you plot the current point system on a graph, this is what it looks like. Obviously sort of the bottom half there's no points, and then it sort of has this linear increase up to sort of P3 where it starts to sort of increase exponentially. So as of recording this video, we've just finished Paul Ricard. So this is what the championship table looks like. Max Verstappen leading by a long shot. This current point system sort of heavily favours the people on the podium. The top 10, it sort of drops off quite rapidly. And as you can have a look, the people in the bottom half of the table, they're extremely close on points, as these drivers are typically scoring 1 or 2 points at best for a race. So you can see a bit clearer on this graph, Verstappen's leading this championship by a mile, but Charles Leclerc, Perez, Sainz, Russell and Hamilton are all in arguably the top 3 best cars, are sort of all within that top bracket. These are the drivers that have been getting onto the podium the most. The next bracket, you see quite a big drop where Lando, Ocon, Bottas are. Now these are drivers that are finishing in the sort of lower half of the midfield and picking up a points, and then again you see another lower band for the drivers that have managed to pick up maybe 1 or 2 points this season. So as the current point system has definitely had some thought behind it, but it's still arbitrary, there's no sort of set reason why it should be that. Let's have a look at some other point systems that could be used in Formula 1. First one I wanted to look at was going from P1 awarding 20 points all the way down to P20 awarding just the single point. Now this would allow all drivers to fight for points, although there's not much of a difference between points for the different positions. Now I'm not awarding points for fastest laps, and I haven't included sprint qualifying, as I think this will just confuse things a little bit more. So this is what the current championship would look like if we used that point system, and it's very interesting to see what drivers benefit from this. So Max Verstappen would still be leading the constructors, although he has almost a 100-point lead currently, and on this he's only actually got a 3-point lead. So this definitely favours finishing position rather than sort of getting on the podium, which you can clearly see by those 2 Mercedes. They haven't won a race between them, but they've been finishing in really high up, they've been getting on the podium quite a lot of races this season, and it shows that their reliability has really been great, as they are second and third. Now, the Red Bull dropping one position from the current standings, and the Ferraris, so Charles Leclerc dropping 3 positions to the current standings, and Sainz dropping 2. I think this shows how much their reliability has been an issue. The amount of DNFs they've had, they really get 0 points, where George Russell and Hamilton, in this point system, they wouldn't be picking up 20 points, but they'd be getting pretty close. They'd be getting 17, 18 points a race, and that difference in this, which isn't as big, really benefits them. Now the midfield's interesting. Lando, Ocon, Bottas, Alonso, Daniel Ricciardo, Gasly and Vettel don't move a position, but Lance Stroll moves up 7 positions, so he was in P18 in the current standings. Now I think this shows he's always finishing just outside the points, so if he's finishing in 11th or 12th, he's not getting any points, but in this system, in that position, you gain a lot more. Same can be said for Alex Albon, and we know this because we've been finishing around that position in a lot of races. Now Kevin Magnussen, Mick Schumacher, Tsunoda and Gasly, I think they are falling down the order for reliability, as if you DNF you get 0 points, so this point system really does award reliability. Now the next system I wanted to look at was a double point system. So instead of just awarding P1 to P10 points, I think it would be interesting if all drivers could get a point. Now I was just going to double the original order, but as it sort of exponentially increases, it started getting silly. If you gave P20 1 point, then 2 point and 4 point, it ends up P1 getting about 400 points or something, which obviously can't be done. So I think you give P1 50 points. So this is what I've done. I doubled the current standings. So first gets 50 instead of 25 and last gets 2 instead of 1. And then I spread these out. So P1 would get 50, and then instead of P2 getting 18 and then double to 36, it would actually be 43, which is the average between the 2 positions. So this is sort of represents what the current system is, but it's just kind of doubled to give all drivers a point. So I think the order of the drivers in this one is relatively similar to the last one we looked at, but it has a lot more similarities to the current driver standings. As you can see, Max Verstappen is way out in the lead, as he has had so many first places. He obviously has been getting a lot of those 50 points, which is extremely helpful for him, and the gap between first and second is still quite big, which helps him out. Now George Russell is still in second. He gains 3 places, so those points is obviously helping him out. Perez remaining in third. Hamilton not doing as great as the last point system, probably due to a lot of his lower place finishes earlier this season. And yeah, the 2 Ferraris again in 5th and 6th, dropping 3 and 2 positions between them. And this has just got to be reliability. DNFing and getting 0 points is such a loss when the other drivers are picking up so many points per race. Now same again with Lando, Ocon, Bottas, Alonso, not getting any points. Daniel Ricciardo gains a position. Stroll gains 6, not as many as last time, but still a significant amount. And same for Albon. And yeah, a case can be said for Magnussen, Schumacher, Tsunoda and Zhou. These are the drivers with a lot of DNFs, and I think that is where it has dropped them down the order a lot more, because the drivers like Albon, Gasly, Stroll, Ricciardo, they're in the constructors, they're sort of below them, but they've been finishing races but not getting rewarded by any points, whereas in this system they get heavily affected by DNFs. So let me know your thoughts on this video, and if there's any other point systems, maybe in a different series of racing, that you think could be interesting to have a look at. And I might have a look at the end of the season to see which driver could have won the championship. If the points have been slightly tweaked, or altered. So thanks for watching to the end of the video, and I'll see you all again soon. Cheers.